clubs and studios, I mean, many of them don't support the growth and development, and the coach community is very underserved. So we want to honor those that are supporting those individuals.
Taking calculated risk. I think that a lot of people have been so scared of, lawsuits or people coming against them with, oh my God, you said this or you said that, or your marketing has this person or that person. I think people have pulled away from being who they truly are in their messaging sometimes.
If I were in the fitness space right now, as a product company, I would probably try to do everything I can with AI. And I would be very, very cautious in terms of artificial general intelligence, AGI, as well as embodied AI.
There's a market for everyone at the moment in time, but as these emerging markets develop, I think there has to be a recognition that price is king, cost is king, and sometimes the existing original manufacturers just can't deliver on that at that margin. It doesn't work.
I think we're going to get to a place fairly soon where technology is going to be involved in delivering the instruction, not because the Pilates studio owner doesn't want to have a live person, but because he or she can't find an instructor in Syracuse, in Albany, in Huntsville, in Naperville.
So we're here with Kathleen Ferguson, founder and CEO of Coach 360. Thank you so much for having us in this beautiful venue.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
So tell us more about Coach 360 and this event that we're at today.
Absolutely. So Coach 360 exists to support the business of health, fitness, and wellness coaches through content, educational resources, and job opportunities to empower them to thrive in their careers. This event is to honor those industry leaders who are supporting the growth and development of coaches and instructors in their facilities. So we've created an Industry Impact Award, and we are working with many of these partners. There are commercial partners on our tech platform that is the niche staffing piece of what we do to get these coaches jobs. So we want to honor what they're doing because not everyone's doing it. Clubs and studios, I mean, many of them don't support the growth and development, and the coach community is very underserved. So we want to honor those that are supporting those individuals.
I quickly want to touch on this. So, Matthew, I've actually known Kathleen for many years. In fact, funny enough, you worked for another company going way back. Do you remember this?
Yes.
In DC?
Yeah.
We had a WeWork, and the other company she was at
Verdio.
was Verdio.
Yes.
And I randomly met her, and there's this other company down the hall that was also in fitness. And that we just met by complete chance.
Yes.
And that might have been 4 or 5 years ago. Is that about right?
Yes, it was. And then we reconnected, I think, at Connected Health and Fitness Summit.
That's right.
Yes.
And I said, okay, you look familiar. And I'm just thinking about it full circle. So I still have the same company, nothing of that stuff, but here you are, completely transformed. You launched Coach 360. It's not even a year in, is that correct?
Yeah, we launched in May 2024.
So not even 1 year in, and now we're in the 64th floor of the Mandalay Bay in the foundation room. So congratulations.
Yes. Thank you. But media has been second nature for me because that's what I've done for the past 17 years. I got my start as a coach on the gym floor and just ended up, like so many others, struggling to figure out how to evolve my career. Got into media and I absolutely loved it. So that's kind of what I've been doing ever since, and love working with startups. I like to build things. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, it's been full circle, and I kind of say Coach 360 is about 17 years in the making.
Well, you've met and you have a lot of interesting people just behind the door here.
Yes.
And we were interested to know, what have been probably one of the memorable or thought-provoking conversation that you've had over the last few days, would you say?
I would say the most thought-provoking conversation is surrounding AI and how there's certain people that believe that it could replace health and fitness professionals completely in the next 5 to 10 years, which I wholeheartedly disagree with, obviously for many reasons, but I don't believe that AI is ever going to replace the human connection piece that a health and fitness coach can offer their client base. I think that there's so many complementary things that AI can do to enhance the business and really streamline business efficiencies. But I think it's a conversation that I've heard a lot of over the past few days, and it'll be interesting to see how that pans out, because for me, I'm seeing a rise in the coach because I'm seeing this need for a holistic approach to how they're serving their customers. And I don't think that that's going to go away. I think that AI is going to continue to provide the data that is needed to give that holistic offering to their client. But I think that there's going to need, the coaches are essential to being that guide and that conduit to healthy living.
Which is exactly what we've been talking about. I mean, AI is a topic that me being in technology, I get all the time. On this podcast, we talk about that very thing, that AI is not going to replace humans, but it's going to be a great tool to help you do to help you do your job better. I was on a panel today with Al, who you know, who's another OG in tech in our industry, and we said the same thing. You know, we had a question come up about AI, and our response was, it's a tool. I mean, spreadsheets do not replace accounts.
No.
It just helps them do their jobs better. Aside from AI, you know, looking at HFA, something else that we've talked about is we didn't see a lot of new and exciting things. I mean, we saw things that were better.
Right.
But have you seen anything that kind of struck you as innovative or exciting at this event?
You're going to have to ask me tomorrow when I actually have time to walk the floor. I feel like the last couple of days has just been a ton of networking. But I mean, there's people doing incredible things in our industry right now. Incredible things. Seeing that there's a robot now that gives massages.
Have you tried it?
No, and I honestly, I'm so skeptical. I want to try this, but I cannot believe and wrap my head around the fact that a robot can give a better massage than a human.
We talked about that.
Yeah, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago.
Right, because
I've heard it can.
I've heard it can. I mean, and they're launching it out at 60 Equinox locations.
Yes.
And it's about, I mean, I think at the Four Seasons, it's about 130 per session.
Yeah.
So if a massage at the Four Seasons is like 220, I would opt for a human.
Right.
And you would too. And would you opt for a human or a robot?
I would, because the physical feedback that you provide to the human that's giving the massage, I think is essential in order to get, you know, to take away from the massage what you need, right?
And I think there's something also about the human touch, community, having the human interaction. I mean, I think it's a big reason why even in-person fitness, you know, we both work in digital. And you came in digital with Verdio. I work a lot in digital, but at the same time, I always tell people this, that digital is complementary to the physical.
Yes, and it needs to be. It needs to remain that way. There's room for both, absolutely.
So if we look forward to the future, and it's always a difficult question, you know, we're sort of looking into a crystal ball and getting some predictions about maybe any disruptive ideas or technologies that we're likely to see between now and this time next year. Like what you know, in the world that you're in, what do you think are some of the things that we need to keep a lookout for that are probably going to have a big impact in, you know, in what happens in the space that you operate?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I mean, I'm heavy into the niche staffing space in the fitness professional world. Right now, no one is doing niche staffing right, and this is, you know, you can see this by the 100%.
What's niche staffing, by the way?
Niche staffing, just so for specific to the industry. So right now, most people are finding fitness professionals on platforms that don't cater to fitness professionals. Whereas with Coach 360, we've been nurturing an engaged audience and using the media part of our platform to you know, provide them with the resources that they need to grow their careers. These people are prime for staffing agencies or clubs and studios to find their next hire. I think with the rise in AI and the rise in, you know, how people want a more custom approach to recruitment, I think that's going to be a really interesting thing to see. How do we work together to leverage AI to get more personality traits from these coaches to understand, are they a good hire for Equinox? Are they a good hire for Orange Theory Fitness? And we could essentially aggregate data to create a hireability score so that they can understand. They can understand that maybe you're a 10 higher score, you know, for an Equinox, and, you know, maybe you're a 10 for, you know, Body Bar Pilates, whatever it is. But to be able to actually pull in data, you know, about their personalities from their social media accounts, what they like to do on the weekends, how long they were at a previous position, is a really interesting way to look at the future of our staffing. And, you know, the possibilities are endless because we can turnkey this out to other markets. So, you know, looking to the future, I think that the way that we hire fitness professionals, the way that we support fitness professionals is going to evolve significantly.
Interesting.
Well, good luck with this event and the
you.
continued success of Coach 360. I mean, if you've come this far in less than a year, I can't wait to see what you do next year.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much for letting me talk about something I'm so passionate about.
Of course.
Thanks.
All right.
Thanks very
Thanks,
much for your
Kathleen.
time.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Jarrod Saracco,
Matthew.
the health club doctor.
That's right.
What have you been doctoring about at the show here?
Doctoring. I like to say I'm saving the world one gym at a time. You know what I mean? So whatever it is, concept to completion or gym rescues or just helping operators reach their potential, that's really what I'm doing. And it excites me and keeps me busy. So
You've been talking to a lot of people.
Yep.
I'm sure. Thought-provoking conversation that you've had that's really stuck with you and made you think what you're up to.
Thought-provoking conversation. I think a lot of people are still talking about AI and recovery, trying to figure out where it fits, and then what the future is going to hold for the Health and Fitness Association.
Did anyone come to any conclusions? Because it's been a reoccurring thing that we've spoken about as well.
No, I mean, I still think it's unknown. I still think a lot of operators are struggling to figure out how to make things work.
Yeah.
You know, everybody likes the cool new thing, red light, recovery, you know, it's the hot topics, but they don't know how to make money on it.
Well, I want to go back to something. So you've been a successful operator at a large scale, right? The thesis that I see, because we've only worked with, I think, the larger scale brands, but at the same time, the industry, the pulse of the industry is really in the mid-tier or small businesses. So when you go in to a small business, or let's just say the 1 to 5 gym location, what are some of the things that you tell them when you see like an EOS or a Planet or these HLP 2.0, a Crunch come into town? I mean, how do they stay relevant and compete?
I tell them not to be afraid. And if they listen, they could win. And that's really the message, because I think people get scared of the big corporate gyms, right? And there's nothing wrong with them. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, you're talking about great operators, right? You mentioned EOS, you mentioned Planet, you mentioned these great Choose. I mean, all great operators. But to me, if you position yourself correctly, right, everybody can get a piece of the pie. You just really got to know who your customer is and how to go get them and keep them, right? And I think that's part of the struggle for a lot of the independents. Are you trying to be everything to everyone, or do you really know who your customer is? And that's what I find with most independents is they're trying to compete at that level. And once you start competing on price, you'll never beat those guys. So let's create value, let's identify our people, and let's go build something truly remarkable.
I really love that. And so if you could list maybe 3 key things that an independent should focus on, because you talked about be brave, but what are some things in 2025 that being brave means embracing?
Taking calculated risk. I think that a lot of people have been so scared of, you know, lawsuits or people coming against them with, oh my God, you said this or you said that, or your marketing has this person or that person. I think people have pulled away from being who they truly are in their messaging sometimes. So every business has risk, but we always say take calculated risk. I think the next thing is know who you are and also who you are not, right? Like, who are you trying to attract? Well, that's the type of equipment you need to put in, right? That's the type of services you need to provide. Do you have membership coordinators or not? Depends on who you're trying to get, right? If it's a low dollar place, you're probably not putting membership coordinators in. So really knowing and understanding who you are as a company. And then the third thing to me is invest in your people. Take care of the people who take care of your customers. Not enough businesses are doing that. And we can see in this day and age, you know, the human resources part of our business has really gone to the wayside. And people are expecting more from us as employers. And I think I find that more so than not, we make bad employers. We don't have bad employees, right? And we kind of go, oh, that's a bad employee. Yeah, but it's our fault. We don't have the right systems and processes. We haven't created the right culture. We haven't set our business up to be successful to help them grow. So do you really have a bad employee, or are you really a bad employer? 3 things you should think about.
Obviously, us as, or not us there anymore, HFA, I still get confused by the name of it. I don't know if they're going to shake that off. But a big part of it is a trade show.
Sure.
And there's a number of different ideas, companies, products out there. What have you seen that has particularly caught your eye? Like we were talking about it, we did an interview earlier, and you know, there's definitely a sense of, there's a lot of gear out there.
A lot of kit, as you would say.
Yeah, a lot of kit, but you know, what is your perception of it? You know, are there anything, you know, interesting observations about all the different brands, what they're delivering, what the message is? Like, how do you, because you've been on the other side of the fence buying it, so how would you assess all of that?
So my secret, I'll share my secret to a trade show. My favorite thing to do, first of all, if you have an ability to get in early before the crowd, that's a great thing to do, right? So snuggle up to a vendor and see what happens. But I like to start on the edges. The outside small booths that nobody's heard of yet. The small companies trying to break through. They've got a great idea. They don't have a lot of funding. They're just looking for somebody to give them a break. It's almost like a Shark Tank of fitness, but you find them in these little booths hidden in corners outside. It could be technology. It could be some cool little attachment or toy. Somebody's got some marketing or referral system, you know? So today I was with clients, so I didn't have as much time. There's a couple things I'm gonna go back tomorrow and take a look at, but to me, my favorite thing to do and the secret to really finding the next big thing is on those outskirt companies. Over the years, I've found a lot of success in some of those startups, and it's been a lot of fun to watch them grow or put them to use in my own clubs or client clubs, you know, and see how they can do. So for me, I think that there's a lot of growth in technology. I still think recovery is something that we're still exploring. And we all know strength is another hot word that everybody's trying to compete with. So just be very selective and make sure you do your homework and, you know, make sure it's the right fit for you and your demographic.
That's interesting that you mentioned the outskirts, because when I think about the grocery store, so many times, you know, if you go on the outside, you stick with all the natural, the produce, the healthy foods, and avoid the aisles. The aisles, in our cases, at HFA, they're the big vendors.
That's it.
Those are the big brands.
That's it.
Jarrod, you went, you know, earlier, you just kicked this off by saying, what is HFA going to be? And you work with a lot of the smaller chains, not the big ones. And in some ways, just because I've worked with a lot of big chains, I've tried to, you know, my perspective is, how can HFA serve bigger chains better? So we've tried to bring in the L.I.F.T.S and the plans to get involved. But from your side, even though the board of HFA, I would argue, represents, you know, has a lot of smaller, mid-sized owners in it. When you think about what HFA is becoming and what it's meant to be, what would you like to see HFA be?
Listen, you know, they've had a big uphill battle since they've started this whole movement, right?
Yeah.
And getting us recognized in Congress and the Senate, getting us a seat at the table, really, right? And I applaud them for their efforts. But I think for the independent owner or smaller 1 to 5 clubs, I don't think a lot of them realize yet how powerful a membership in HFA can be, or why they need to be a part of it or even care. For example, today, I was even talking to one of my clients, and one of the members was trying to quote the new cancellation rule, right? About, hey, you got to take my cancellation because I know the rule now, but there's loopholes in it, and people need to understand what those laws are in order to formally operate their business. And I don't think enough of the smaller independent people pay that close attention. The bigger guys, of course, do, right? It has a big major impact, especially if you're publicly traded. But mom and pop gyms, as we used to call them, I don't think they paid close enough attention to realize how beneficial these things can be. And I really look forward to seeing what we can do in the future, especially with things like the FIT Act, HSA, FSA spending, like one of your podcasts just talked about.
Are seated machines slowing your members down? With many people spending the whole day sitting in their car, at the office, and in front of screens, then you have to ask yourself, should you really be sitting down when you're exercising? As seated machines do not promote all body movement, then a solution that encourages standing, putting the body in an upright position, will make workouts more effective. Help your members break from sedentary habits with more active training. Are you interested in creating a more dynamic workout environment? Then contact us today. The only thing I would say though, like you know a lot of this new breed of gyms that are coming up. Like you've been involved. We've had a number of conversations about that. And when you look at what's around here, and I'm specifically focusing on equipment, but I'm sure there's other things around from nutrition and everything. Like you see a lot of these new breed of gyms, and what is in them is not represented here.
Right.
So for someone that's probably worked and coached and advised on something, like where are these people getting it? Is it social media and as you know, thinking about HFA and what they're doing, is there a requirement to kind of, you know, bring an old traditional world that's a lot, you know, very good, regulated, all that important stuff, but with some of this new stuff, so that you're really kind of getting a broad view of what's really happening?
Sure. The more angles you have, right, and the more perspective you have, the better and stronger you're going to be as an organization. I think a lot of these gyms that you're referencing, they start out as a good idea and they get excited. I want this kind of gym. I want to do it for bodybuilding. I want to do this. But they eventually realize that it's a real business. And there are things that are being talked about in places and rooms that we're not involved in that will impact them as a small business owner. Whether it's your garage gym for you and your buddies that you're selling memberships out of, or you're trying to build the next big bodybuilding sensation gym, or operate a health and fitness center. These things impact all of us. Whether you realize it or not now, or you realize it when it's too late, it's going to be one or the other. So definitely encourage people to get involved and really understand what's going on for sure.
I always keep on thinking about community, Jarrod. And so much you mentioned about is community businesses, community people. Community makes fitness really happen in the world. Well, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It's a pleasure.
Jarrod.
Really appreciate it. Always
Thanks,
a pleasure, Matthew. Thanks for the time and stay active.
We are at the Coach 360 Industry Recognition Awards Happy Hour event, 64th floor in the Mandalay Bay. And we've got Nicole Dunn, who's a wellness obsessed advocate.
Yes.
And a PR maven.
Yes,
PR
that's
maven.
good.
And Matthew, you can.
Thank
We've got
you.
Debra Strougo, industry it girl. That's kind of
I
how.
like that.
Ooh, I
Industry
like
echo.
that. That's good.
Thank you, Matt.
And a good mom.
Industry
And a great mom.
Don't forget the good mom
And a good
part.
mom.
We're here at HFA, and we're asking 3 questions. We may ask you 4 because there's 2 of you here, so
Okay.
we may up one. But one of the things that we're talking about is, I guess, Nicole, I'll start with you. What have you found most interesting about this year's event? Have you seen anything interesting?
Okay. The number one thing that I was telling Debra that I saw that was interesting is the rise in weights and just because of the emerging trend of strength fitness. I am seeing so much, especially in the media, about strength fitness for women between 40s and 60s, that it was like everywhere I turned around, it was this glamorous weight set or this glamorous weight bench with the, you know, so there was a lot of different moving parts of, you had a bench with all of your weights in it. I liked that. I liked, you know,
Well, I have a question about that. So we did an episode earlier on the show floor, and I said something that I saw that was kind of new, a company that is Booty Builder.
Oh, I did see that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, well, Booty Builder themselves aren't new, but they launched 12 new products in the last year, all around building your booty. So it's a women's
How many
focus.
ways can you build your booty?
I mean, Debra said
Obviously a
all of
lot.
them.
Right.
Well, that's the first question that I asked the founder, right? But I just thought that, like, when in a time when your innovation for equipment companies has been basically getting bigger screens on cardio machines, another curved treadmill, another flavor of a weight, and then you see a lot of Chinese imitators coming in here.
Yes.
I thought that was kind of interesting that they hit a segment and they made equipment specifically for women.
Yeah.
Because a lot of equipment, by default, have been made for men, including grips. If you look at the Olympic bar, it's designed for a man. And I'm just wondering, you know, being women, how important do you think it is to have ergonomically built strength products for women?
Well, me personally, I can use any weights. I feel like, you know, a weight is a weight. If you have a 10-pound dumbbells, I mean, I feel like they're the same thing. But there are probably women out there who want something that has more curve appeal, you know, I don't know.
Okay.
And, you know, makes them feel good and makes them feel better about working out with those weights. So, hey, I'm all for it. I feel like that's innovative, and you are segmenting yourself to a group of people who want something and they want a need, and they're getting it.
How about you, Debra? Anything exciting?
Well, in the strength or in the floor in
Just in the
general?
floor in general.
I will just say on the floor in general, I think the energy was at an all-time high.
Ooh, yeah.
And the
I said
reason
that
I
earlier.
think, well, number one, I loved the blue carpet. Okay, I asked.
You loved the blue carpet?
The blue carpet. I loved it.
I didn't know.
Did I
I
miss
didn't
the blue
recognize
carpet?
that.
It's
but-
blue instead of red. I had asked if it was a red
Is it always
carpet.
red then?
It's been red in some of past
Hey, she's
photos.
got a good eye.
But it was blue today, so I liked the blue. But I also just think that the energy was an all-time high because people are just really, really so happy to be a part of this industry. Like the industry image is at an all-time high. That's how I feel.
I sense that. We talked about that earlier.
I can't believe that your observation was the color of the carpet. Like,
I never noticed it. Has it always been red? Has it been?
I would not have
I wouldn't
known.
even
I know
have-
there's
I-
carpet.
yes.
I know the difference between a show where there's carpet and not carpet. I would recognize that.
Yeah.
But the color, that's like, you've got a real attention to detail thing.
So is there a
Or-
reason behind the red?
I don't know. So actually, Eric did a post. My
About
husband,
the carpet.
Eric, had done a post about the old red carpet, and I actually asked Liz going into this, is the
Okay.
carpet going to be red again? And nobody answered the question, and so now
Surprise.
the carpet was
Carpet's
blue,
blue.
and I matched it in my blue shirt, so I was just happy. But anyway, it's a happy color, okay?
What, blue?
And yes,
What kind of, was it light blue or dark blue?
it's like it was like a
bright
slaty
blue,
blue.
right?
It was like a it was a beautiful blue.
Okay.
It was like an
Well,
ocean
I bought
sea
some,
blue.
like, I had some blue, like,
You did today.
bottoms on, so I,
did.
you know, I
No,
that's
just
probably why I
blend it
felt
in.
as I was coordinating.
Tomorrow we're
coordinated.
all going to be taking photos of it for the
We
LinkedIn
will.
audience.
I'll be
okay?
noticing
For
you.
the,
I'll be
yes, we
noticing
should
you
make
now.
Us
sure.
walking down the blue carpet versus the red.
Yeah.
The blue
Yeah.
carpet.
Yeah.
But honestly, I mean, actually, if you make some sort of blue sky analogy, like that's what the industry really feels like right now. It feels like a lot of really, really passionate people that are here to do work that they really want to be a
Yep.
part of. It doesn't feel like we're struggling back and clawing out of the COVID BS.
Yeah.
You know, it feels like we're really being respected by just everybody out there, like the rest of the population. And I feel that's just the energy and the vibe in the air for all of the products and services and businesses and the people
I
that are
felt it
working
too.
amongst them.
Second I walked in, I took a video and I just went from left to right and I was like, wow. Because the energy, you could hear people talking and they were excited, and I didn't get that last year. So when I walked in today, I felt like, wow, this is a change.
Yeah.
Well, I want to last year too. It was a tough, coming out of some tough years.
Yeah.
I feel like we're on the other side maybe.
Yeah.
And people have more of a clear path to the future. And I wonder if a lot of it too is, so if you think about, we've been in this industry, we used to be passionate about wellness, like we all love this. But now everyone outside who's not here,
No.
they're talking about wellness. They're talking about things it feels like the whole country
Yes.
is trying to do things around our industry.
Yes.
Yes.
And they're looking to us to say, help me.
And they're respecting our knowledge.
Yes.
Like that's the other thing, right? Like
We're
we
like,
talked
cool.
about that.
You're
yeah.
the it girl
Thank you.
in our industry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So what would you say, like you spoke to a lot of people, what are some of the, outside of dinner last night, which was interesting, but is there any really thought-provoking conversations or ideas that you've heard whilst you've been
Well,
here?
we're kind of lifting a little bit this question of coaching excellence, like going beyond the idea of just a qualified coach to really, really beyond a certified coach to a qualified coach, right? And so we know, having been in the industry forever, you get a certification, you still need all the soft skills, you need all of the things. And so, of course, you're a coach, you're a trainer, you're an instructor, you're with somebody for an hour a day. What is the rest, right? And so tech sometimes looks like a sellout experience, like, oh, we're going to do AI coaching, like, what's that? And now this question about how to kind of take a coach's mantras, mission, vision, values, and like use it still in real life experience when you touch, but then adding the tech layer on top of it so that you're with people for the hours that they're not around you, and kind of delivering on the accountability and the motivation that we need. So I think it's interesting to see. I mean, I'm excited to see some of the players that are coming up around that idea.
I love that you worked in the tech. You know I love that. That was awesome. But it's so true, right? You've got to, in order to improve health outcomes, you've got to know what they're doing outside of your four walls. So I think brands are finally embracing that
Yeah.
and doing that. So, all right.
Final question then. Next 12 months, any disruption, changes that you feel that are going to have happened, say by this time next year?
That's a thought-provoking question. Well, you know, last year I was all about the year of the woman, and I really felt like this was the year of the woman because we had so much, and I know I'm going in the menopause, but the periomenopause, so we were really looking at the needs of a woman, and I do feel like fitness with the strength training trend, especially in media, I am seeing that there's more focus on women. So I'm happy that there is actually an emphasis on women's needs and their health needs, which have been often overlooked and underlooked at. And so I appreciate that for us that are in our 50s. I feel like that's something that we should be focused on. So I would say probably for the next rest of the year, I would love to see this continue, to see celebrities, speaking up for women in that age bracket and really just emphasizing how we need things too. And I think, a lot of medical studies were done on men. And so we don't have the data on the stuff that we need for our health. So I love that people are actually, making a stand for it. And then I think other people will catch on and say, oh, well, that's interesting. I just took on a new client and she's writing a book about sexy bones and like having good bones and having good structure to your, strength to your bones. And I'm like, that is really interesting.
That's interesting.
And so osteopenia and osteoporosis and things like that, like I wouldn't have thought of anything about that. So I think it's important for us to look at that because we have mothers, sisters, grandmothers, and,
daughters. Yeah.
So it's important.
I completely agree with that, but I also think what's really interesting is the flip side of it, which is I'm starting to feel and hear from a lot of industry outsiders that are like, how can we get into your industry? So like, we're talking medicine, we're talking all of the blood test stuff, we're talking a lot more on the CPG side. And they're saying like, we're creating all of these things and we want to bring it into the industry because we're respecting all of the work that you're doing. So how can we do that properly? Which is really interesting because it used to feel like we were more like, hear from us, like care about us. And now they're coming to us.
Yes, I like that.
Just to go back to your point, it's about 80% of the research in health and wellness has been done on men.
Yeah.
But I think now a lot of brands, especially those we work with, are being a lot more equitable and they're being very careful about how the studies are being done. So, just last Saturday, I was at the Women's Collective in San Francisco, and I think brands care, women care. I think women have always cared.
Yeah.
I think women have always felt it, but now everyone else is like listening.
Even the equipment, I was talking to a lady, she was a designer. I met her at CES a few years ago, and everything from bike seats to fitness equipment to hand grips is all mainly designed by men,
For men.
around men's measurements and things,
Yeah.
and not at all ready for women. So I think more consideration around that is going to be beneficial.
I also love the idea around data and building data around women, and that can be for Gen Z, that could be for any generation. But I love to hear innovation from brands when they're talking about data, like they get data from people using their app, and they're like, oh, we're going to use this data to actually create a pitch to go out to the media, and we're going to talk about the data that we found in XYZ. So I think that the data in that, what you're saying, is really important too. And what you're saying, everybody's coming in. Well, let's help get the data, and then that'll help build better products and better weights and better whatever it is, or better DNA tests and all that. I just think it's the innovation part of it is becoming interesting.
And we're in the early days.
Juicy.
Well, Debra and Nicole, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
So, is this the first time we've had you, Natalia, on our podcast?
I don't know. I think you had.
I think we've been at primo.
Primo.
We had a
Because
conversation.
I've known Natalia since before the pandemic, I think, and you put on this incredible event. I might have come to the second FitTech Club event in Munich, is that right? And a lot of my American friends said, hey, come to Munich. This is an incredible event. It was kind of like at a beach club in Munich. Just so nice with this incredible event coordinator. And then I met you. I just remember you coming on this main stage, super high energy, which is hard to do because I get nervous.
I was just so nervous. That was just my nervous.
Was that it? Were you
I
nervous?
was just so nervous.
But you did such a good job.
Thank you.
And look, we all go on stage a lot. I was on stage today. I still get nervous, and people don't see that. But it was kind of my introduction into the European market. It was a chance where I met so many of my American friends. So it felt like familiar, but then I also got introduced to so many brands that I actually ended up kind of working with and at least staying in touch with. And that was 6-7 years ago. Is that about right?
7 years ago.
7 years ago. And the FitTech Club has matured, it's evolved. Why don't you tell us a bit about, for those who don't know, what the FitTech Club is today?
Oh, that's a great question, Mo. So we started with a conference, but I was
Yeah.
also thinking of like, how can we create the most value for the consumer, for the customers? And people come for the content, but they stay for the network, right? And that's what the FitTech Club is about. So we're the international network of founders and executives in the space of fitness and consumer health tech. And why they're part of that, and I'm speaking of companies like Garment Health, like Abbott, like Basic Fit, like RSG Group, and of course lots of innovators in the space that are not that famous yet, but where we believe they will become one day. And why they come to us is because of two things. First of all, it's curated networking. So you get intros to the right people, you get into the power networking sessions, you get to know the industry peers in very moderated, very powerful formats. Another thing is the market insights, right? We're obviously also here at HFA because we want to understand where the market is going, right? And we're investing time, effort, money to be part of that. But the problem is, it's hard to catch up, So we're trying to support the members in that. We'll help them generate insights, learn about the industry from the first-person perspective, from the horse's mouth, and also understand what's happening on a deeper level and what kind of models in terms of innovation and technology are really working and what kind of models still need time to develop. So that's what we do.
One of the things that I was interested in getting your view on, and we spoke about it earlier with some of the previous guests, and it's also been quite a common theme in some of the interviews we've done over the last, let's say, 6 months, is femtech. As a female entrepreneur, in the technology space and seeing what's happening there, what's your perspective on that market in terms of where it is and where you feel it will be going, and probably providing some sort of perspective on it which maybe people may not be noticing.
You mean the femtech market?
Exactly.
Well, the situation is half of the world's population are female, and only 3% of research in healthcare space is tackling the female's problems and is working with female data, right? So there's a huge discrepancy, and I believe that we're in the time where femtech will definitely grow, and we're seeing more and more attention coming to the space. Just think of Flow that you just mentioned, Flow Health. They have become the first unicorn in terms of femtech in Europe, and I think they're not the last ones, right? And we're having lots of underserved audiences here. It's not just female, females are also really segmented. You have different kinds of stages of the female body, and you have different phases that you have to cater to, right? And to do this smartly. So I think the market is huge, it's gonna be growing, and this is also something where the marketing budgets are flowing now as well. So that's a huge opportunity, but also a huge idea to make the world a healthier place for the second half of humanity.
Yeah. First of all, one of the things I noticed, Natalia, is you, just in your talk track and how she's explained FitTech Club, you matured just a lot in speaking and everything about your grasp of the industry, the fact that you just talking through, and by the way, I love the stats that you mentioned. So congratulations, I've known you now for 7-8 years
Amazing.
or so. And
Time flies.
I think, which is incredible. Yeah, I have 2 more kids. And yeah, you're right, time flies. So a lot of what you are a perfect case study for why things like the FitTech Club and the community are so important. Matthew and I often talk about how much we learn from our guests, right? A lot of people say you have this knowledge, it's brought to you, but a lot of times when we talk to people like you, you've clearly built this encyclopedia of knowledge by having the FitTech Club, and I think members who are a part of that club, part of your community, also can benefit from that. I've heard from some bigger companies like Abbott you mentioned, and they've said, by being a part of this, in fact, funny story, one of the first times I met Abbott was in a FitTech Club meeting, and we now work together from
Amazing.
that. And one of the reasons they were part of it is because they want to know that early stage companies. So you kind of build this community of early stage companies and scale companies. So talk about the importance of community, because I feel like you've understood that better than a lot of people.
I'm not sure about that, and thank you for flattering me. But to be honest, I'm still a learner. Every member in our club has no more knowledge about their respective markets than myself. I'm learning from everyone, and we're the benefit of having community is that you have the high level of perspective, but you dive deeper and then you need specialists for this. You need the guys who are really into this business. So, I mean, the community is a thing that's really easy to start, but hard to continue, right?
Yes.
The one most important thing that we're looking at as a community is member happiness. Right? How happy are our members? We've tried like thousands of things, literally, right? So the club 4 years ago and the club today are very different kinds of communities. What we do is we look at member engagement, we make sure they have the most value out of the club, we help them to find the right context, right? We listen to their problems. But I think another thing about clubs and communities is that they have to be either real big, right? Or really focused on one niche, right? We're thinking like, should it become a club for founders and investing? No, we're not this. We're the club for industry leaders, decision makers, innovators, right? And the only thing that we're focused on is how the industry of health and fitness is developing and how you can be part of that, how you can make this pie bigger for everyone, right? And how you can learn from each other. So it's a very collaborative environment. And each time I'm hearing about a new partnership our members are starting, like, I'm so happy, to be honest. It's just like, because we're in the age of partnerships. You cannot be just on your own, right? You have to partner with big players, you have to partner with small players. You can learn from the big guys, you can learn from the small guys. And that's what the club is about. And that's what I'm really convinced about. You cannot survive alone in this world because the world is just way too insecure, way too unsafe. Too many things are happening. You have to be together in it, right? And we're all together in this, right?
Yeah.
So looking forward, you mentioned, it's part of what the FitTech Club focuses on. What would be some of your predictions in the, between now and this time next year that you think we should be paying attention to?
Oh, Matt, you know that predictions are hard, especially about the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're making it all up, but.
So, like, if I were in the fitness space right now, as a product company, I would probably try to do everything I can with AI. And I would be very, very cautious in terms of artificial general intelligence, AGI, as well as embodied AI, especially if you're offering a product in the physical space. Like we have Escape, which just raised over $80 million, right? And that's just a robot,
Yes.
A robot massage
Yeah.
person, right? It's not a person, it's just a massage robot. And if you let the robot come to your skin and become really close, get really close to you, what do you think is possible in the space of of personal trainers, right? Because they're not that close to you, and it's an absolute possible thing. That in 2 years from now, we're going to be having a personal trainer who is a robot, combined with artificial intelligence and combined with the sensors and the perceptual space and understanding of your personal data that gets directly into your feed, taps directly into your feed, and knows exactly what kind of movement you need and what kind of advice you need. So for me, that's like an absolutely imaginable future. And what I've learned, I'm like a huge fan of science fiction. Mm-hmm. If I learned one thing is, if you can imagine this will happen.
Yeah.
Right? Absolutely. Like think about 70 years ago, 60 years ago, we had Isaac Asimov with the iRobot, with all these kind of trilogies and sci-fi stories we're like, oh no, it's like nice story, it's not gonna happen. Well, it is happening now, right? And the progress is just accelerating, right? And since we're living in the binary world, which stands for, oh God, let me remember quickly. That's like the McKinsey word, which stands for brittle, anxious, non-linear, and also incomprehensible. That's the world we're living in. It's only getting worse. It's accelerating, and in the next months or years, we don't know this. We don't know. But we're gonna wake up in the world that's very different. Just remember ChatGPT. It took it 2 months to get to 100 million users. That was the fastest growing consumer company so far. And more is going to come, right? And the only thing that we're sure of is that everything will be different, right? So the only constant is really change, and we're living in the world which is changing all the time. But it's also, for me, the chance for the fitness operators, the chance for physical businesses. Why? Because people want to believe in something. They want to be part of the community. They want to have a sense of belonging. They want to have a physical touch. Yeah. Where here speaking, how good I'm feeling? Because it's 1,000 times better than having a Zoom call, right? And that's exactly where you have the fitness operators having a huge chance to establish themselves as, we love speaking about third spaces, but as a real space for connection. And I don't know how much data you need for this. I don't think you need data for this. I think you just need a real concept that caters to the right consumers.
We talk about the fundamentals. We always talk about focus on the fundamentals, focus on human connection, and the rest will come. Well, it's been great having you on. Congratulations on all of your growth.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks very much. We'll see you in FIBO, I guess.
See you at FIBO.
Thanks. We've just got out of an Uber.
We've gone on an Uber.
Into another party.
Up an elevator? Did we go to an elevator or no?
Yeah, we went up an elevator and then
Yeah.
we kind of came into this super noisy club called, what's it called?
On the record.
Off the
On
record.
the record.
On the record.
On the
Off
record.
the record.
On the record. On the record.
We walked
And then we kind of
around.
found the speakeasy
Yeah,
room.
we found like this kind of speakeasy room
Zumba's
that we're
throwing a
not.
party out there. This is the Athletech party, but I think Zumba sponsored the music.
Okay.
Which is excellent, which is why it's so good.
And we're not officially meant to be in it. I think this is a VIP room where you have to buy a bottle and kind of sit in.
No,
but
we were not allowed in the real VIP room. I tried.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
You've huckled this room.
we did.
You've huckled this one.
We did.
Half a bottle.
and we're with the most interesting people in the party.
Almost. one of the two.
From where have you come from today?
Singapore, right? So yeah, beyond Activ in Singapore. Been a busy day of meeting clients, meeting prospects, meeting friends and partners, yourself included, Mo and Matthew. So it's been a really busy and fun day.
What kind of, we've asked this to the last few people, but what sort of conversations or ideas resonated or stuck in your head or sort of worth sharing?
Great question. I think twofold. One, from the operator side, I think there's a lot of enthusiasm about how they can grow their businesses across multiple different lines. Premium, mid-tier, high value, low price. They're really enthusiastic. I think depending on the manufacturer you talk to, depends on the skepticism they have around tariffs, pricing, cost. But those that are doing really well are really buoyant. Overall, genuinely, this last couple of days, really positive. Actually, I feel motivated being here. Mo, you the same?
Yeah, it's funny. I think to me, we talk about energy a lot. You've been coming to these events. I've been going to your events for many years, but I just felt like the overall sentiment and energy at this HFA compared to the last couple of URSAs that just had a rebrand has been positive, has been better. Someone, Debra, who we all know, said maybe it was the carpet. She said the carpet is blue instead of
Did
red.
you
I don't
recognize
know.
that?
I did not.
No, it's apparently it's blue carpet instead of red.
Well, Joel, have you noticed anything? What's been exciting for you about?
I met a lot of cool brands that are
Okay.
not from the US, like from Vietnam, from China.
Yeah.
And they're really good quality products. And they're looking to expand in the US and more.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to see that. And also a lot more in the longevity wellness space.
Okay.
I've tried that, like the
Yeah.
cryo, I don't know if you tried it, like Cryo Innovations, they have a dedicated gun machine. And I had like a
have
neck
you
pain
done
and I
that?
tried it earlier, it's really good.
And it worked? So how
It
does that work?
So they have like a gun that they focus a point in
Okay.
your body, so like shoulder or back,
Mhm.
and they go at it for like 30 seconds to a minute.
Okay.
And so it's not just
But
cryo
does it have
chambers.
cryo inside that gun?
Exactly, it's like massage
We've
therapy
not
with
tried that.
cryo,
We've not tried that.
cryo guns.
You mentioned about some of the brands from Vietnam and that coming here. Like one of the things that we talked about earlier is that previously you'd have many, I guess, American brands, and then they would have manufacturers from China or Vietnam that would be behind them. I definitely noticed more brands from Asia that are brands themselves. Like what are you noticing in terms of how, I guess, Asia specifically are sort of getting involved in markets like the US and Europe?
Great question. Look, I think there's a skepticism around the quality of the work that some brands outside of the US and Europe can actually deliver into the marketplace. Reality is there's a couple of very, very high quality businesses in China, Vietnam, Taiwan that can produce amazing products and services. Yes, there are some that produce slightly cheaper, subpar brands, but I think you have to distinguish between the very good and the very bad. They exist in the US and they also exist in Asia. For me, I think Asia's now found a voice. It's on a global market, and it now has a kind of a penetration into those companies that are trying to get cheaper, valuable products. I'm not saying they're better. I just think there's now an alternative on the table that can compete with the original manufacturers in the US. That's good for the industry. It's competitive. I think it's price conscious. I'm not saying they're going to win all the time, nor should they, but I think choice is good. And so I think choice increases competition, increases shall I say, margins, which is not great for Escape Fitness. I apologize, Matthew. But there are generally some good brands in Asia that are coming out that should be celebrated. In the same way, there are good brands in Brazil that are coming out and going into the US that should be celebrated. So for me, I think each to their own. Let the cards play where they are, and let's see what happens. Not every brand's the same, but every brand should have a choice or a chance.
Well, I think that has more to do with the internalization or the globalization of our industry, and putting either one of my hats on, SweatWorks or ABC Fitness. We talk about price all the time, and even coming to market like Australia, where you recently had an event as well, we were looking at how is ABC priced compared to the competitors in Australia. We want to grow in the APAC region. In order to do that, we've got to have different pricing models. The price network doesn't work there. But something I think that is potentially different is there is a level of service and quality that sometimes is missing. I even look at this from the technology side. There is some of the experiences, and just, look, we're in the US, a more mature market, depending on where you look at. But the thing that I'm challenged with is the consumer's also mature, right? So it's a fine balance. So the consumer here is mature, so they're demanding more, and you're going into an emerging market where the consumer is just starting to enter the gym. So maybe even with a lot of the advanced stuff that we're doing here, or the finesse that we're doing here, there's no need for it there. So sometimes the more affordable, I think to me it comes down to accessibility. Yeah. Ultimately, if we are a US brand and we want to go internationally, it's so important for us to have that local perspective in that market. And really, we talk about meeting the consumer where they are here, but we need to meet the consumer where they are there.
Agreed, but you also have to meet the manufacturer where they are. And I think for some of these companies in Brazil, they don't exist if they're buying Technogym. They don't exist if they're buying L.I.F.T.S. As good as those products are, these are amazing products, those business models perhaps don't work for these type of companies in that low end of the marketplace. So they have to buy from India, from Vietnam, from China. There's a necessity for that company to survive, to go into that partnership. That's fine. I think there's a market for everyone at the moment in time. But as these emerging markets develop, I think there has to be a recognition that price is king, cost is king, and sometimes the existing original manufacturers just can't deliver on that at that margin. It doesn't work. So that produces an opportunity for someone to come in at that level. I don't know if it's sustainable or scalable, but it's an entry point.
But I think, the thing I notice, and maybe social media and just kind of the internet has created this, is that you've, clearly I've been going to China for 25 years now. Clearly the people that are involved in some of these businesses, they're getting designers that know what they're doing. They're getting people that understand marketing and branding, and they're doing a bloody good job at social media. And they're kind of, and I've seen a few, some of them are doing an awesome job, way better than kind of some of the local brands. I'm seeing China companies, and I think it's an interesting shift, and hats off to them for being able to really do that. But they're, I guess in some ways I feel that it's like, okay, we don't need an importer to do this. Like we can do the whole thing from beginning to end. And there's some pretty interesting challenger brands out there now.
A lot of them are actually strength-based.
Yes.
I saw like at ex-Fitness Masters.
Yeah, he does a great job. Yeah.
Fitness Major, and also the QLI Fitness Equipment. They're all very strength-based.
Yeah.
So that's interesting to see as well.
Yeah. Yes.
Versus cardio.
Versus cardio.
Yeah, that's a good observation. Yeah. And I don't know whether that kind of resonates with more of the younger demographic, and they definitely do a really nice job on things like Instagram and TikTok and that sort of stuff. And I'll be curious, like what are from a social media perspective? Like I know there's some social media brands in Asia that we don't have here. Like what's happening out there that we're probably not aware of? Like what's the big equivalent to TikTok and what's tell us about
TikTok.
that?
It's just China.
Yes, yeah.
TikTok's China, but it's WeChat. I mean, if you can get through WeChat has, there's 1.6 billion people in China. There's 1 billion of those on WeChat. If you can be a Chinese manufacturer and you can somehow access WeChat to sell retail products, you can sell retail products 1 or 2 or 3 SKUs per person, and you can sell 1 million of those. And that's an enormous business. And then you use that to jump into the commercial world. So I think it's economies of scale. You can't forget how big China is, but it's not how big China is, it's how well connected it is. On the WeChat platform, there's nothing like it in the world. Payments, everything. Billing, calendars, you can do it all on WeChat. Yeah. There's no websites in China for a reason, because they all go through WeChat. So again, it's a really unique payments, engagement, member journey ecosystem, but they can sell retail very quickly on high volume to 1.6 billion people, and then profit that they can divest into the commercial world. So it's a unique environment. It doesn't exist anywhere else.
Well, one thing I noticed, and one last question, I noticed you both have whoops on.
Yeah.
And as I've traveled internationally, I consider myself international. You're international, even though you're kind of American now. But he wants to be American. He wants to be American. But well, we both have Oura rings. So, and then Whoop's done a really good job. I mean, when you're in Saudi, Whoop's huge over there. Like,
Yes.
A lot of people have Whoop. I noticed you both have Whoop. I'm just curious, what attracted you to Whoop versus an Oura ring? Is it just availability? Is it something about Whoop? Because I'm trying to figure that out. Was it your idea to get all of your Activ on Whoop?
No, I think it's convenience, easy, and when you work out, you
Yeah.
don't have to like remove a ring
Okay.
to begin with.
Which we do. We remove our
It's
rings.
like a Swiss Army knife in a way. It's good for sleep recovery, like HRV. So
Yeah.
it's good for little things that you track. But if you want something specific, like a heart rate monitor, then maybe I go for like MyZone, for example. But I'm focusing on like the everyday, the lifestyle. So I think Whoop really makes sense for me, and I love that it's pretty as well.
Yes, that's right.
What's your thoughts? Because it's a real estate battle, right? This is the real estate.
Why did you choose
The ring
that?
is real estate. For me, I can't lift barbells, dumbbells, chin-ups, pull presses on an Oura.
Yeah.
Much as I want to. That's the biggest killer for me. I love Oura. I think it's a brilliant product.
Yeah.
But the reason I wear Whoop is for that reason. It can track me during my workouts, whereas Oura can't. What are your thoughts?
You
Like, I
love
mean,
to run,
you do this
right?
every day.
Yeah.
I think
Not picking sides.
Well, one, there's not something I can say on the record versus off the record. I think both Oura and Whoop are good.
Yeah.
They're both high fidelity devices. A lot of people don't recognize it. They look at like cheaper, not only cheaper, but like Chinese manufacturers coming out with similar stuff. It comes on the accuracy, and they're both really accurate products. I really like them both. We had Kristen Holmes a couple weeks ago, who's the chief science officer of Whoop.
Yeah. She's
at
amazing.
an event. She's just she's incredible.
Yeah.
They're both strong, and I've had an opportunity to integrate and work with both of them as well as Apple. But I do think that, to me, the issue I would say is accessibility. Right? You're talking about products that have a subscription, that are expensive. So to me, I'm focused on how do we get the products to be more accessible. We work with Walmart on a smart ring, actually, that is sub 200. And I think, can we get these devices to under 100? Can we get these devices to under 30? And not by sacrificing quality. So to me, I'm really focused on that. But in terms of the modality, it's going to come down to whatever you feel most comfortable with. Now, and I'll leave it at this. The finger, there's less noise. So when you look at the actual wrist, and Whoop's an accurate product, there's a lot of cartilage and noise that you work through. But in finger, you have more direct access to your blood vessels. So you don't need to shine the electrodes and the lights as bright in order to get an accurate reading.
Yeah.
And there's less algorithm that you need to in correction to do some of that.
I mean, on your point of accessibility, I mean, Singapore, I don't think you can buy an Oura ring in Singapore. I think you have to get it shipped. It takes some time. On the Whoop side, it's also very difficult. I think I would love to see, again, Whoop, Oura, Ultrahuman, any one of these major kind of players, if they had true geographical distribution to figure out where the chips settle, that would be very interesting to see. But at the moment, Peloton's not available in anywhere in Asia, technically. There's lots of things where we're based in Asia that are just not available. I would love to see them in Asia. I would love to be able to get an Oura in Asia, no problem at all. But it is difficult.
Plus the women health element as well.
Yeah, well, you know what? Regarding that, I know some people. So maybe I should connect you with some people and try to get Oura over to Asia.
It's a great market,
Yeah.
but again, it's Singapore's a 5 million person market. Indonesia's a $250 million market. It's all about that stage of growth, as you know.
Yeah.
Where are they going to next? I think they'll come to us eventually. I would like them to come tomorrow, naturally. It's not going to happen.
Well, let's see if we can do that. I mean, look, between us,
can.
we've got the right people in the room.
If you can, I'd love to.
All right.
I'd love to.
I'll focus on that. Well, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
As always,
Appreciate it.
gentlemen, thank you for your time
Thank
and
you,
effort.
Jolin.
Thanks, mate.
I'd love to have you here. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. So I want to get to introductions. So I'm going to start with Julian Barnes, because Julian's been a multiple time guest
Very
on the
fortunate,
podcast.
Very fortunate. Thank
And
you,
we're
guys.
fortunate to have you. At this point, I think you're like a friend of the
definitely.
industry. You're a friend of Matthew and I. You're
Definitely consider myself a friend of the two of yours, and this guy and I have known each other a long time as well.
The second guest we have is Jarron, and Jarron's the founder and CEO of Hapana. And I've had the pleasure, Jarron, of meeting you. Obviously, I've known of Hapana over the last, I'd say, 2 years. And mostly because,
Hapana?
I'm going to get to in a second.
Oh, okay.
But mostly because I've been, for my business, I've been really focused primarily in the US, a little bit in the UK, some in Germany. And you've really built a good business in Australia and the APAC region. And it wasn't until I went to Sydney that we met in person, and now we're going to have some mutual things together. This is your first time coming on our podcast. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here. Good to be with you guys in person as always. But honestly, it's just great to get the industry together like this, because this does give us that opportunity to connect in person, have these conversations, and share ideas, whether you're competitors, as we were saying before, or not. Like, it doesn't actually quite matter. We're actually all here for the same mission and purpose. You look at like these mission statements of all these companies out here now, they are so similar. We're all here for the same higher purpose. And there's ground here for everyone to make money, build a living, and have an impact on lives out here.
And I would add to that, the serendipity of being in person, right? That's what you can't, there's no serendipity in Zoom. Zoom is 1:30, off at 2, because I got another one from 2 to 2:30. But when you're walking the hall, serendipity is you run into someone you haven't thought about, you haven't seen, or you've been trying to reach, but they were flying all over the place. Imagine trying to reach Mo with his schedule. Good luck. But if you run into him in the hall, serendipity. So the in-person events creates the opportunity for serendipity in a way that Zoom and email just don't.
Before we forget, Matthew, you asked about what does Hapana do. Jarron, do you want me to explain it, or do you want to do it?
I'm happy to give it a go. Let's
go for it.
So, I mean, Hapana is a membership management platform, full ecosystem, end-to-end. So, of course, the billing, scheduling, member experience, sales, CRM, marketing automation suite, and all the reporting. A large percentage of our customers are multi-unit groups. So 84% of our locations that we're servicing across 17 different countries are part of multi-unit franchise or corporate-owned groups. So for us, it's really important to enable these businesses to be able to scale, that are thinking global first. Domestic is important too, of course, but global as well. And honestly, for me, I'm really passionate about bringing not just the technology to the table, which is my background. It's the customer service, because when I came to this industry, I looked around at the players that were here 10 years ago. We've been doing it for 10 years now. But the thing that stood out the most for me was that passion for the relationships to service customers, to be there, to understand the nuances of their business, to understand who their kids are, who their wives, their parents are. Like, that was phenomenal in the sector, and something I hadn't actually seen before elsewhere. And I think that the next breed of technology, whatever it's going to be, has to have a combination of the both, because tech these days is important, but you cannot forget how important these relationships are. And there's phenomenal companies out here that still uphold those values, but I do think for me that's the biggest passion. It's a fine balance, a combination of the two, because obviously we've got to build a profitable business, but at the same time, we've got to balance those two things out as we service our customers.
Julian was just saying about Zoom and the benefits of meeting in real life. Like, you're in a tech business, but it's a people business as well. Technology is progressing a lot in terms of what's capable now that probably wasn't a few years ago. Like, where do you see that going in terms of the blend between digital and human connection in your business, if you have to sort of think, I guess, a few years in the future?
I have an answer for that after him.
Well, I mean, to your point, this type of event now tonight is bringing people together. That human connection, especially in the four walls of this industry, the fitness and wellness sector, is, I don't think, ever going to go away. That's important, but technology can help facilitate those connections. It's an aid, in my point of view, to helping people connect with each other. And then it's also an aid in the sense of helping these businesses become more successful. So more efficient, less like, let's just download data and figure out what to do with it, and more prompting, more guiding them through that journey. And also, of course, self-service engagement. But I do believe that the businesses that will thrive in 5 to 10 years will always have that human element. And I feel like it's a responsibility of the technology providers to also create that really intricate balance between the two. We are responsible building technology to find a way to make sure that the human connection never dies, because especially in our industry, I think that's what will live on. And so, yeah, self-service, automated engine may sound pretty, but at the end of the day, if that will be successful in the sector, then what it has to do is motivate those owners of those facilities to deploy humans to then connect with other humans face to face, not replace that whole interaction completely.
Except for the demographic shift in this country. And that's why technology is not going to be an option. Every facility owner in any business that relies on human capital, not just fitness, restaurants, hospitality, everything, facing the same demographic shifts in this country. And that is the fertility rates in the Western society have been declining for the last 20 years. The rate of the population growth is expected to start to slow as of 2050, which means there are just fewer and fewer people who are willing and available to do, well, let's start with the pool of people is smaller, just a fact. And then the percentage of those people who want to do hard, tedious, backbreaking work is even smaller. And then you throw in the changing mindset of the current Generation Z, who has other options available to them, so they don't need to work to make slightly more than minimum wage. That's going to put a tremendous amount of pressure on fitness businesses that are people-based. They're going to be forced to adopt technology to deliver services that humans used to deliver. And I agree with you that human connection is going to remain important. So it's not a but, it's an and. How does technology support the delivery of the services in a way that still creates that human connection?
I agree, and I think part of the generational shift here is that we're going to see attention spans shorten and shorten. And for that reason, also how they interact with each and every single fitness brand or drive loyalty to brands in general as consumers is going to become more fickle and more temporary, which means all services need to become more transient, easier to sign up, easier to cancel, as much as it's nice to lock people in for longer services. Everything has to be value and service driven, but without this price war where you drop your price down to the bottom and drive your service up, because we still have to build viable businesses. And I think there's a fine line. There's some interesting economies around the world. I spent a bit of time recently in Korea, and funnily enough, like there's just the barriers to entry into the market there is a lot lower. You see a lot of copycat brands popping up, but also the need for consumers to see service is increasing and price to drop relative. So everyone's expecting a higher degree of service in the culture there, but they're seeing the prices also drop relative, and there's no correlation between the two, where here you would always see higher service attached to higher price.
Do you see technology, like if you think of people like Amazon and some of the sort of big social media brands that deliver information at a speed, like my guess is that when you look at an app and your expectations of going, even just Amazon as a good example that we all know of, like you just expect everything to be so slick, so sort of immediate, no friction whatsoever. And so, you kind of people's expectations just of interacting with technology must be extremely high. So when you're, if you're running a fitness business, for example, it can be easy for people to get a little bit frustrated because you're literally comparing yourself with what Amazon are able to provide and almost like predict.
And it's frictionless, right? So there's a couple of things. One is how it could predict what you need. I mean, think about some things that you don't order, simple things like the air filter for your home, your, razor, whatever the things you may not get that frequently because you're buying it in bulk. The minute you type in air filter, it brings up the last. You don't have to remember what the size of a filter is for your house anymore, or even just click here to buy. It doesn't ask you for your security code or anything like that. Consumers expect that, but you said something about short attention span. Think about the music industry. We've all got friends in the music industry. The average song length,
3 minutes.
That's right, it's not 3 minutes. And it used to be much longer, about
5 minutes. Those are
5, 6, 7 minutes. Going back 30, 40 years, songs keep longer. Most of it is how consumers are using music today are in short reels. And because of that, the music industry adapted. So they said, okay, the consumer is using music to effectuate the reels that they're posting on social media. Yeah. So we want to be in that because that's how a lot of songs have been discovered and really climbed up the charts. So the music industry adapted. That's correct. So I think in the fitness industry too, we've got to sometimes we try to do something because we know it works, and we are benevolent, but the consumer's not there yet.
No.
So we've got to do more work. If we ever want to improve penetration, you and I talk about this all the time, we've got to do more work just to see, they're here today. I know we want them to wear the Aura and to get the 8 hours of sleep and drink all of that, but right now, where are they today? What are the little things we could do to help
Where
them?
they today is they're still not exercising at the way the average American is still not exercising the way they need to.
That's right.
We were talking about what I believe the role of technology will need to be in this industry. Let me give you a great example. We're about to release the 2024 BFS State of the Industry, and we're going to map out profiles of profitable studios. And to no one's surprise, Pilates studios are the most profitable with the highest profit margin. But almost every single Pilates studio I've spoken to has the same #1 challenge. Want to guess what their #1 challenge is?
Talent.
Talent, finding instructors. So I don't know what the answer is, but I fully expect the answer is going to involve technology. We don't have, to my knowledge, maybe FS8 is using the F45 model.
That's right.
Okay, and if you're in a top 10 coastal city, then yeah, you can always probably find a dancer who wants to become a Pilates instructor. But if you're in a secondary and a tertiary city or another country and you don't have access to a pool of people who want to invest money and time to become a 500-hour Pilates instructor, but there is a demand for Pilates in your market, I think we're going to get to a place fairly soon where technology is going to be involved in delivering the instruction, not because the Pilates studio owner doesn't want to have a live person, but because he or she can't find an instructor in Syracuse, in Albany, in Huntsville, in Naperville.
Well, just a really good point. I was speaking with someone today who works in the boutique industry, talking about Solid Core. Solid Core is about to open their 3rd studio in Fargo, North Dakota. Do you guys know about that?
Yeah.
That is,
Wow.
who would have thought, and their best, and we all know Brian Myers, I don't know if you know Brian or not, but you know the best performing studio for Solid Core? Anyone take a guess where it is? It's not in DC, which is where I am and where Solid Core head to. It's in Michigan. It's in Michigan. But here's the issue. Here's the challenge. So in Fargo, North Dakota, the 3rd Solid Core studio.
Where are they going to find the instructors?
And as churn happens, right? So you churn, it's 2 things. Instructors, 1, and how do you train and retain them? But what about the member? Our industry churns at a rate of 50% in the US. I don't know what it's like in your market, but that means 50% of our membership churns every year. And if you're churning in a big market in the coastal cities, you've got the people to come back in.
There's another role. There's another role for technology to play in member retention, member experience. You know, something else that we'll preview from the report is even profitable studios struggle with the basics of the sales nurture sequence. And I was talking to someone today about how I would break the sales nurture sequence into 3 categories. What happens after they buy your intro offer before they visit the studio? What happens when they visit your studio? And then what happens the moment you walk out the door after your first class? Technology has a role to play in managing that experience in all 3 phases. And if businesses, fitness facilities of whatever type, if they're really dialing in on their experience in that way, that could address the churn issue you're talking about.
So for us, I believe it's multi-touch in each of those 3 buckets.
Right.
So you know, broad category, but you got your email and SMS marketing, each nurturing them to the next stage of that funnel. You've got content distribution, likely and ideally in the app, and they've already got a branded member app experience on their phone, but it's highly targeted in those stages of the buyer journey. It's all about meet our instructors, understand our methodology, understand our product, get inspired to come again. Just one more time, come one more time.
Book.
That's all it is.
Book
and
before you leave.
Book. And then all of that is ineffective unless the instructors are effective on the ground. I mean, often we see they put a big onus on the tech. I think it's an important touch point, right? But I still believe, at least today, I think it will change over time.
I'm
but
not
the instructors,
saying it's tech only.
Yeah.
I'm saying tech is going to have a huge
Absolutely.
role.
But you take out the tech and you just look at the instructors, again, less ineffective. Those conversion rates will dive. And when they have 50% churn, and it is typical, similar to that globally, I do believe, or at least in most countries, you got this constant cycle. and turnover. And of course, to train those instructors that come and go as well.
You know what's funny, Matthew? You have the two tech guys sitting on this end here.
Yeah, and I'm not a techie.
But here's something that's interesting. How many tech people do you know today that are actually talking about untech solutions to solve things? And there's got to be something there, right? And you've heard me so many times go kind of unteching something, but I agree with you, Julian. Like, to me, spreadsheets did not make accountants obsolete.
Correct.
It helped them
It's a tool.
It's a tool.
I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
I belong to one of the newer big box gyms in New York City. It's been open less than 18 months.
What is it? I'm curious.
I can't say because of what I'm about to say. It frustrates me to the nth degree when, after a certain period of time in the day, I can see in their canteen, I can see the yogurt, I can see the PB&J, I can see the stuff, the water, the protein drink, but I can't get it because they don't have RFID, they don't have technology that allows me to grab what I want, swipe my Apple Watch or my phone and pay for it. It's right there in 2025. Why can't I swipe, grab what I want? That to me is an example of technology that already exists being deployed at a big box facility that invested millions for the build out. And you're telling me they forgot to put in the healthy vending machine or the appropriate technology, and then I'm frustrated after working out because I can't get what I want? There's no reason for that.
Well, we're close to wrapping up now, but I think the point you're getting at too is share of wallet. So consumers, I'm sure you see this in your market, are spending a bigger share of their wallet, as we all are, in wellness. But we've got to help them spend that money, to your point.
Make it easy for me.
Make it accessible.
Make it easy and accessible. You had a question you wanted to talk about before we started, about where we are at HFA.
Yeah, well, we kind of totally went off the whole questioning thing, but it was a good conversation anyway. But the original question that we told you that we were going to talk about is kind of, what's top of mind? What's kind of, what are the conversations that you've had that have really resonated?
Well, the three types of exhibitors I've seen here today that did not exist 2 years ago, and this is not an original opinion. Anyone who's walked the floor has seen more sauna exhibitors, more cold plunge exhibitors, which is great. There are at least 3 GLP-1 exhibitors that I've seen. So that didn't exist 2 years ago. The fact that the fitness community is embracing the role of GLP-1s in society rather than saying, oh, that's bad for us. Now there are 3 different exhibitors here. That's my big takeaway. I'm surprised I haven't seen, maybe it's here, an HRT provider. I haven't seen that.
There are a few who are on the floor. I don't think they exhibited, but
I mean, exhibitors.
That's right.
So next year I expect we'll see that.
I agree.
Okay?
I agree.
So all this longevity, health, women's, that's what I've seen. That's a big difference this year.
How about you, John?
Yeah, I spent just a moment walking the floor, so it's hard to sort of take it all in. But I've seen some of the equipment manufacturing booths sort of contract for space for some of the wellness. Generally, I remember Ursa's back 10 years ago.
Red light.
Yeah.
3 or 4.
You won't miss it when you walk past.
You can't. The beds are huge.
Yeah. I've definitely seen a shift like that. And, I remember, 10 years ago, the equipment manufacturers would fulfill almost their entire year's quota at these shows. So you're probably seeing distributed sales cycles now, where the shows are a component of it, and product releases aren't necessarily centered around the shows. Generally across the tech providers, everyone tries to release something flashy at these shows. And I've spoken to a couple, and they've actually regretted their decisions going out at prior shows and saying we're ready to launch this new buzzy thing because they weren't quite ready for it. And even we've contemplated and grappled with that idea of, what are we launching at the show? And can you drive your product pipe to deliver in that moment in time? And I think
everyone says what's new.
But as a general trend, everyone's looking for that next new thing in these shows. And there's a genuine curiosity, I think. People are connecting more with each other, even as competitors. The connection between competitors in the industry at the moment, whether you're on the ground as a a brand, a concept in the same regions and territories, or vendors talking to each other, I think there's and coming back to what I said earlier about our mission statements, what we're trying to achieve, there is a general higher purpose that people can connect, they can share information. The pandemic definitely helped in that evolution where people were talking on the Zooms at the same time and sharing information and banding together to just get through it all. And now we're seeing that on the ground at these shows. So I feel like it's a really positive seismic shift, because at the end of the day, it just helps us get better. And this industry needs that to propel us forward.
Well, I think just to wrap it up here, one, thank you both for coming on. I'll also add that the association changed its name. It's called the Health and Fitness Association. Wellness was a key thing. We actually launched a new council called the Digital Health Council for the first time. I think Julian, I was speaking to you about that at this event. I think we are in a transformative time. The pandemic certainly accelerated a lot of that. And we are in the early stages of a massive seismic shift in our industry. And this is a great time to be here. So thank you both for coming on.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Tim. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jarron. Of course.